Hello, today we are talking about the House of the Scorpion and the Lord of Opium. This is a two-part book series. I loved this series. It was done so well. The first book, the main character is Matt, and it's just going through kind of his background, how he comes to be, and then it goes into how he meets the Alacran family and is impacted by them, and how like his whole life changes from that. And it also talks, there's a lot that it goes into, but then it talks about how he also gets away from them. There are parts where I cried, and it's such a fun read. Like, it sucks you in. This book has a lot of drama, like within the Alacran family that he ends up meeting. And then there's just a lot of dynamics that are very interesting. There is one scene where I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad, but like then it's also basically a lot of people die, and like a lot of them probably like deserved it because they weren't great. But there was one character who, the first time I read this, I was heartbroken. Like, I was so upset. And reading it again, so many things, like, I picked up on so many different things. So there is a character in this who is just constantly, like, either on the verge of blacking out because of how drunk she is, or like she's just barely able to function. But then there, like, even when she's like just barely able to function, like, she still is so conniving and like evil. And I'm like, what? Like, that's crazy. Your capacity for evil knows no bounds even when you're drunk. Like, that's crazy to me. But there was a lot in this book that was just like, it's so intriguing. And I really think this is one that everybody should read. It is a young adult novel, they both are, but like, they're so good. They're so good. They are sci-fi, so I don't know. But there's a little bit of everything in this. And I feel like very much the same for this one. This one was even a little more intense because it goes into like, it goes way more into detail on everything. It's so funny. So I recommended these to my little brother. I recommended this one to my little brother. He ended up reading this one, told me it was awful, it wasn't a good book. And I'm so confused because I loved this one. I think I like this one a little more than the first one, because this one, like, it just gives you all the backstory, and then it gets a little darker. Like, the things you find out in this one, you're like, oh. But this one goes into a lot more, and it gets dark. So we find out that one of the characters who died in the first one with a bunch of people, he essentially was forced to do it. Like, he had no say. And that's crazy. And then there was a part where this little boy, he gets semi melted. So like, his hand gets completely melted down to where it's just like a little like stub or a nub of a hand. Super gross. But like, also his whole body like is just very like jello-y, like, which is so gross. Like, think of the Harry Potter scene where he breaks his arm and they get rid of the bones. That's how his legs and stuff are described. And I'm like, what? Didn't like that. But this one, it more focuses on Matt has inherited the drug land, and so he's trying to figure out how to like take down the drugs and no longer have a drug farm, because he doesn't want that, and he wants to free the people who have been enslaved due to the microchips. So he's trying to figure out how to do everything. And he's realizing that, like, there's people where he needs them, but, like, they're not good people at all. And the conclusion for this book perfectly just tied everything up. It was amazing. I love that some of the characters from the first book come back in this book. That was really nice to have them and, like, have a conclusion with them. And, like, everybody gets their happy ending if they weren't evil. If they were evil, they get... But I'm fine with that. But yeah, and then the end for Matt and Maria is so freaking sweet. It's so sweet. I almost cried. It was so cute. So I really enjoyed this book. 10 out of 10. I will definitely be reading this again. This is one that I think when my kids are a little older, I will totally encourage them to read. It is so good. I will say, I feel like this would be at least maybe like 12 years old. I mean, I read this around that age. I read this around 12, and I think it's good. It is kind of like a bigger book, so I feel like 12 is totally reasonable. But yeah, overall, loved them. If you haven't read them, you should check it out because they're so good and they have everything you would want in a book. So read them. Goodbye.